was on the 27th of August 1900 when this monstrosity was first detected over the tropical Atlantic Ocean. It carved a destructive path in a northwestern trend towards the coast of Texas, south of Galveston. What you're about to see is rare footage from a very old news archive that we were able to acquire during the filming of this documentary.
I could not forget this day, September the 8th, when this horrifying ordeal began. Chaos overtook the village. The only way we knew of this horrifying ordeal was through the constant report of telegraphs. I remember seeing distressed sailors rowing out in tiny boats in an attempt to warn us all of the horrifying monstrosity approaching us.
Mrs. Maud Connick was one of the few survivors of this Category 4 hurricane, which had devastating impacts on this small society.
The amount of damage that this hurricane caused was absolutely horrendous for a town like Galveston. It first struck the coast of the city. The surge of the waves was approximately 15 feet high, and it lashed to the coast before overtaking it and swallowing the entire city, which was a mere 8.7 feet high, beneath its waters. The ferocious wind reached speeds of up to 217 kilometers per hour, tearing everything within its path apart and causing debris to fly through the air, killing many instantly. The impacts that this hurricane had on the land was mostly temporary, despite the amount of damage done, meaning that there was no real permanent damage. The temporary changes and impacts on the geographical features of the land included things such as the flash flooding, which washed out the entire land. All the vegetation of the 165-kilometer square island was diminished and almost all the livestock was dead. How the city would ever recover from such a deadly disaster was a wonder to all. It wasn't until February 10, 1901, when the very last body from this horrendous storm was unearthed. The hurricane ripped through and claimed the lives of an estimated 6,000 to 8,000 people, and thousands more were injured. This great social impact caused it to gain the title of the deadliest natural disaster in American history. There were so many casualties that burying each body was impossible. Instead, the dead were piled on large carts and essentially dumped into the ocean.
There were many witnesses to the fact that, because of the Gulf current, many bodies ended up being washed back to shore. In the aftermath, it was then decided that funeral pyres would be set up wherever there was a dead body found, and these pyres burned for days and sometimes weeks. During this time of sorrow, authorities passed out free whiskey to all the men in society to be able to cope with the emotional impact of carrying and burning all the bodies. Sadly, when volunteers were not found for this gruesome task, men were held to the gunpoint and forced to help, providing that the aftermath left everyone in a very negative state of mind. Galveston was the center place of trade and marketing for the U.S. state of Texas during 1900. In the same year, Galveston was responsible for transporting approximately 2 million bales of cotton, and the economy was booming. That is, until the Great Galveston came along. The total damage cost that the Great Galveston caused was approximately $30 million US. When it came to rebuilding the city, two plans were put forward. The first was to build a 17-foot high seawall along the coast of the city to prevent future storms from damaging it. The second plan was to rebuild the city but on a much larger scale and filling beneath it with sand to raise the level of the city so that it wasn't as low as before, giving it more protection. Without much money and an unstable economy after this natural disaster struck, countries from all over the world provided Galveston with the financial help that they needed to follow through with their plans for future protection of the city. With help of other countries, both of Galveston's plans were able to proceed, and the seawall was successfully built within 2 years, and the entire city was raised up to 16 feet, which is roughly 5 meters. Despite this hurricane being, to date, the third largest hurricane to strike the U.S., the speedy recovery and rebuilding of the city was what was truly great about this historical event.
The day the hurricane hit marked the beginning of a new era. The small town of Galveston transitioned from the golden era to the open era. The most significant long-term impact of the hurricane was that it made Galveston a risky place to invest in. As the investors fled, the economy slowly deteriorated, symbolizing the dawn of a new era.